We're local and enlightening. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. For the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, and Pelicans all on tap. Jeff Duncan of New Orleans Times-Picayune, and also contributor to Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. Jeff, welcome to the show. Good to have you as always, my friend. Thanks for coming down. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about what you're involved in, Times-Picayune, also, again, Fox 8. And, of course, any more books on the horizon here?
Well, we're trying to put together actually a collaboration with Phil Collier, who I worked on this recent New Orleans Super Bowl book with the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation. Mm-hmm. We're trying to honor and commemorate the Superdome. I mean, we just went past the 50th anniversary of the Superdome. One of my former colleagues, Marty Muley at the Times-Picayune, wrote a tremendous book on the Dome at the 20th anniversary. But there's been nothing really to document that building since, and there's been 30 years since that. We all know the Katrina tragedy, all the history there, all the Super Bowls, the national championship games. We really feel like there's a great book in that project. I think it's the greatest civil engineering project in the state's history.
Yes.
And we're trying to work on that and work with some local people that might want to fund it. So if anybody's out there watching this and wants to help fund that book, we think it's a worthwhile project.
Well, you say the state, but I mean, again, at the time it was built, you could maybe almost say the world, right? I mean, the largest, what is it? The largest room at that time, and in terms of a stadium, and of course, the way it was built, and the ability to be able to make the change that modernized that stadium, and keep it, have the longevity it's had for all these years, it's been remarkable.
And it's interesting too, if you go back and read the history. Obviously, it happened long before I got to New Orleans, but there was a lot of controversy, as you would expect on a project that big. A lot of people against it.
Yes.
Schwegman was against it. He was a very vocal opponent. People in the north part of the state. So it really took a political collaboration between John McKithen and the mayor here in New Orleans. Yes, and got it done.
Right.
I'm not sure it would be as easy now.
Right.
It'd be difficult. You'd have to really get a lot of allies from the north part of the state, but that was interesting to research that. And then we've seen just how that building's paid off for the state of Louisiana. It's one of the largest revenue generators in the state for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't happen without John McKithen. Back then, again, the Public Service Commission was very, very strong. John McKithen was a Public Service Commissioner. And of course, there was a lot of pushback on it. But again, when you have a governor that was focused like he was to get that thing built, he was able to push that thing through. And look how it's paid off for this state, so many decades later.
Yeah, and I think the location was a critical part of that. At one point, they were talking about putting it on the lakefront.
Yes.
By putting it where they did, it really did anchor the Poydras Street corridor And we're going to talk here in a moment about how they're trying to revitalize that part of Poydras Street with some new projects.
Right. It totally changed everything. I mean, again, from what that area was with old warehouses, and then of course, again, really gave us another grand boulevard with the dome, and of course the major buildings that were built afterwards.
Yeah,
I mean, it changed the face of New Orleans.
It did. It really kind of made us a major league city. It's what really got us an NFL team in a large way, and we're reaping the benefits since then. We're going to try and get another Super Bowl here in the future. All those things come about when you have a building and facility like that. And
so many incredible games. So many incredible. I mean, from when the Jazz were there to again the college basketball championships that we saw, the Jordan shot that everybody talks about. But also again, people forget. That building was a multi-purpose building and was built for baseball as well. The Toronto Blue Jays were this close to being in New Orleans, and of course we'd have had a baseball team as well playing in that facility.
Yeah, that's one of the great benefits of that building, or its multiplicity use. I mean, the fact that you can put so many different events in there. It was really a genius how they put that thing together, and the planning that went into it. It wasn't just a football building, as you said. And it's really one of the reasons why it's so versatile and able to attract so many other events other than sporting events. There's so many other things there. Mardi Gras is there every year, all these big conventions and truck shows and things like that, because it's such a tremendous, massive building with all these different uses.
70s, 80s, and 90s, you didn't have to be a sports fan to enjoy the Dome concerts. Again, the mega concerts that were there was incredible. For years still, Essence Festival there. So again, it has paid off for this city in so many ways, and not just that, for the state as well, with all these major events that are coming in, which leads us to where I want to go first. Mrs. Benson, Governor Landry went to New York recently. You broke the story, meeting with the commissioners of the NBA and also the NFL about, again, getting future Super Bowls here in New Orleans and NBA All-Star games here in New Orleans. Obviously, again, giving them an update on what's going to happen with the Smoothie King Center when it comes to Commissioner Silver and the NBA, and of course, trying to get more Super Bowls with the Commissioner Goodell, but also, again, getting a chance to be able to vie for that 2031 Super Bowl as well. Why don't you take it from there? Tell us a little about what happened there and some other concepts that are coming out of that conversation about the future of that area around the Dome.
Well, if you remember when the state of Louisiana and represented by LACD, the Louisiana Stadium and Exposition District, when they were negotiating a new lease agreement with the New Orleans Saints to extend that lease for another 10 years, that negotiation was really protracted. It went on for a couple of years, probably a year longer than anyone expected. I remember writing about it a year earlier and thinking it was going to get done, and it just really got dragged out. There was a lot of details and a lot of attorneys involved. Whenever you get attorneys involved, it tends to take a long time. And because of that protracted negotiation, the city of New Orleans, the host committee here, missed the formal deadline to submit their interest in hosting a future Super Bowl. There were future games that were on the docket, including that 2031 game. So we missed the deadline to submit our interest in that game by the NFL. And this was really just a follow-up visit from Gail Benson. The reason she brought Jeff Landry, the governor, along, he had some of his top lieutenants with him, was to try and basically update Roger Goodell on how that negotiation went, what was involved, the terms of that deal, and then also to ask his blessing to be allowed back in to the picture, and they were granted that. They've been invited to bid on the 2031 game, and that's an important year because the city of New Orleans really can't bid it on any other year. We'd go all the way down to 2038, all the way out to 2038, because we have conflicts with Mardi Gras, and this is only going to keep getting worse. If the NFL eventually goes to an 18-game schedule, which they will, that's going to push the schedule back even further. I really think it's going to jeopardize our chances of being the top city for Super Bowls. We're going to have to figure that out in the city because if we want to have more Super Bowls, it's going to be difficult with that 18-game schedule. But the point is, 2031 was the year. Roger Goodell, I'd been told they kind of understood things, maybe even use that as leverage to get a deal done with the state. But we will now be invited to bid. And it's a different bid process now on these games. Once you're invited, it's kind of a one-horse race. You almost have to lose the game.
Okay.
We're not going to be bidding against other cities. We're bidding basically against what the NFL wants. Can we meet their requests? And every year it gets more difficult because they up the ante. And we saw what they wanted this time was, and they didn't necessarily make demands, but they just said they'd like to see, greater high-end hotel space. Some of our hotels here have gotten a little aged and dated.
Yes.
They'd like to see higher-end event space. That was something that was a real problem for some of the corporate events they like to have. And then also they asked about the airport, which really got inundated on the day after. It happens in every market.
Yes.
It's just a huge crush of people trying to get out of town after the Super Bowl. It was a real problem for MSY, and it's like that just about everywhere.
Yes.
So those were the key points on at least the NFL Saints side of things.
I want you to expound on that a bit. First of all, first I'm hearing of that we will not be bidding against other cities. When did that change?
That changed a few years back.
Okay.
If you remember when we lost the 2018 Super Bowl, everybody thought we were going to get it for the tricentennial. We were bidding against, I think, Minneapolis and Atlanta. That's gone by the wayside. The way it works now is the NFL just asks you, invites you to bid on this one game.
Okay.
There's really not competition for many other cities. So to me, it's our game to lose.
It's our game to lose, right. Okay, then the next thing would be, again, you mentioned an 18-game schedule, which I agree, the NFL will definitely go to that very soon. Is that because of Mardi Gras? Is that because of the way Mardi Gras falls? I mean, again, we can move around conventions, but again, is that just basically because where Mardi Gras falls on the calendar?
Yes, I mean, we'll have to find years when it's an early Mardi Gras or very late Mardi Gras to be able to host these games. And I know they're aware of that. And the NFL wants to come here. They like to come here. That's why we're getting invited to bid on 2031. They want to come back. It'll be a quick turnaround. It's only 6 years between games.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the quicker turnarounds we've had. But the NFL likes it here so much, they want to work with us. And that's what they're doing on this. They're working with the city. They're working with the New Orleans Saints to make sure we get that game here. So I think they will do that in the future, but it's going to be more complicated.
Now, the expansion of the airport was already on the docket, but again, this puts a lot more pressure on the state to get it done.
Yes, I mean, and same thing with some of the hotel construction downtown. I know they're trying to get this Omni project off the ground. That's a big, plus for us if we can get that. It's 1,000 rooms. That's a huge hotel. And look, all these things were presented to Roger Goodell, and they were mainly just updates on where things stand. Obviously, a lot of them are down the road projects. But that was more of just here's where we're at, here's the deal we got done, and can we have an olive branch and get back in the mix, and he did that.
And they're looking for luxury hotels as well, right?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of luxury hotels. We don't have a lot of rooms. I mean, we've got a lot of small boutique hotels.
Yes.
But a good example would be the Windsor Court, which has been one of the top hotels in the city for a long time. It's kind of aged, frankly.
Sure.
And, presidents have stayed there in the past, but in the way this modern, game works with the NFL, they expect high-end luxury hotels, penthouse suites, things like that we just don't have a huge inventory. And what I've been told from the hospitality industries, people haven't had to invest in it. The city does so well. People come here for the nightlife. They're not really looking for that. But for these kind of events, you're going to have to kind of, up the ante.
Let's talk about event space and specifically, again, the future Champion Square.
Well, this is all part of the NBA project that is ongoing right now. And it's more complicated than, say, the Superdome project. I think everybody in the state, North Louisiana, South Louisiana, everybody understands the Superdome. We're a football state. Keeping that building updated, it really isn't a problem politically. I think there's a big problem trying to get people in North Louisiana, or people just in general, to understand the importance of the Smoothie King Center, how it needs to be upgraded. It's I think it's the third oldest arena in the NBA right now. So relatively speaking, it's an old building. If you go around the NBA and go to these other arenas, it's pretty outdated, especially the seating configuration for the lower bowl, which is the premium seating, which is a big source of revenue for the team. So that has been on the docket for a while. It's been something the Pelicans have wanted to get done, but it really took a backseat to the Superdome deal. Now that you have that deal out of the way, they're focusing on renovating the Smoothie King Center, trying to get that building up to standards with the rest of the NBA. And the carrot at the end of the stick is if you get this project done, and they're expanding it out, I think to help politically, to let people, say in North Louisiana, see that this is a project for economic development in the city of New Orleans. It's not just a basketball arena.
Right.
And they want to expand and upgrade Champion Square, if you remember the old New Orleans Center
Yes.
Mall, which has been kind of out of use for decades.
Yes.
It's a long time. I've
Right.
never understood why that building's never gotten back off the ground. The Macy's parking garage, all that area, they want to make into kind of an entertainment sports district where they'd have, if you've been to other stadiums, you've seen it, like New England's a good example. There's restaurants and bars and sports bars all around the stadium there. I think that's the vision for that area. It'll help obviously the Superdome as well as the Smoothie
Yes.
King Center, but they think that also will help sell politically a new long-term deal for the Smoothie King Center. And then the carrot at the end of the stick is the same as what the NFL does with the Super Bowl. We will give you another NBA All-Star game as a reward for paying and upgrading the facility.
I want to take that particular building and also the possibility of expansion with a new entertainment center. We got the French Quarter. People go out the French Quarter again, and the businesses there, restaurants, bars, etc. Again, it's part of that stool, that triangle that we have with the Convention Center, French Quarter, and also the Superdome. How do you think that plays in New Orleans with again businesses that are in the French Quarter? If you're building a new entertainment district with restaurants and bars within the footprint of the Superdome and the Smoothie King Center.
Well, I don't think it competes at all. I mean, I don't think there's any difference in building anything in the warehouse district or the CBD or even uptown. I mean, the French Quarter is the jewel. I don't think that's ever going to have any competition for the nightlife, magnet. This is more, hey, game day, where can we go around the building? I can envision, no one's told me this, I'm just speculating,
Right.
I can envision, a sports book in there. Like if you've been to Europe, William Hills or, right around Wimbledon
Right.
Stadium, I could see things like that going in there that aren't really competing with anything in the French Quarter. It's more about the game day atmosphere. And I think everyone would agree. I mean, they need to upgrade that
Yes.
part. The tailgate area, there's just it's not great around the Superdome. They need more green space.
Yes.
They want to add green space. It's just a concrete jungle right now, an asphalt jungle. There's just not a lot of escaping the heat for early Saints games. And I think they want to just try and upgrade that entire experience for fans.
In the aftermath of Katrina, one of the concepts was, again, tearing down City Hall, moving again City Hall, putting a big a berm, grass berm, and again, making that an area where you could tailgate leading into the dome and the arena, especially for major events for that area there as well. Maybe, again, that'd probably be part of that concept. I did want to ask about the arena itself, because, again, as you mentioned, it needs upgrading. It was kind of built on the cheap back, again, when Edwards built had that building built. There have been some upgrades over, again, the life of that building. But Commissioner Silver came out and pointed out the fact that was an older building and needed to be upgraded. What are we looking at in terms of upgrades?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of the lower bowl, I think, will be completely renovated, refurbished. There's going to be a lot of new club seating, as I understand it. Part of the problem is they're kind of stuck with the footprint there. It's abutting right up next to I-10. So you really can't expand any on the footprint. And so it really limits how much work can be done on the building. I think there's some talk about expanding it over on the other side, away from I-10, toward the Superdome, maybe expand it, almost maybe connecting or making them even more adjacent, the two buildings, and you could add some, I don't think there's going to be an increase in the seating at all. It's going to be more moving the lower bowl closer to the court and making those seats better vantage points for basketball. But they have to keep the multiplicity use of the building, because they hold concerts in there and all kinds of shows. So it has to be done, but they've got a plan.
Right.
And it's a matter now, will the state approve it? I think if you're a Pelicans fan, if you're a basketball fan, and you want to see this done, you should be encouraged that Jeff Landry went on this trip, that he brought his key people there that are involved in these kind of negotiations. That would indicate to me that he's on board with this. And that's probably a very encouraging sign.
Well, much like Governor McKithen when the Superdome was built, if you get a governor, especially a powerful governor like Landry, that's going to be behind a project like that, normally you could push it through the legislature. And look, so far Governor Landry has understood what New Orleans means to the rest of the state, and also, again, what sports means to New Orleans.
Yes, and I think they understand, or at least they're trying to make everyone understand that building is more than just a basketball facility.
Right.
It's going to have all kinds of economic benefits to the rest of the city with the concerts. It's fine as a concert venue. I've been told they don't really have any complaints from people about the acoustics in there for the arena for shows. I think this is mainly a basketball upgrade, but to sell it, you have to sell the rest of the project.
Well, as far as concerts goes, again, that building supplanted, again, the Lakefront Arena, which, again, for the longest time, had more concerts than maybe any other venue in the South. So, again, now you're looking at that there. I do want to ask about the upgrade in seating and, of course, the price point for the fan in New Orleans. How does that work?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the only thing I would say.
It's out of my.
If you're upgrading seating, then you're upgrading prices. Obviously, the Pelicans need to be winning to get folks to come to the game. But I wonder how that works with the median income here in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out, I guess, once they get it done. I think the key is how much taxpayer money is going to go into this project and how much money is Gail Benson going to contribute. We know they contributed to the Superdome project. It's becoming more and more kind of a partnership now between public dollars and private dollars. That's how it's working. And I think one of the things that we've heard, but it keeps getting pushed back, is would the Pelicans take the expansion fee that they're going to be getting? It's going to be $300 or $400 million if the NBA chooses to expand, that could go to this kind of project. But the fact that keeps getting pushed off, I think they've decided to just go forward with it and figure that out later.
And look, there's a lot of talk of at least trying to extend 2 more teams in the NBA. Both those teams in the West would move the Pelicans to the East, but that's another show entirely. Timeline.
I think they're getting ready to start negotiations here in the next few months. That thing took a little bit of a hiatus after the Dome deal got done. So we've got to go through a whole, months and months of negotiations. I don't think it's going to be anything soon. I know that Jeff Landry is interested in getting his people to meet, privately with the Pelicans. They didn't like how that last negotiation went and got a lot of news. The back and forth between the two sides. So they're trying to handle this much more behind closed doors. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that when you're talking about a public entity. There's going to be a lot of public dollars involved. So we'll see how these negotiations are handled, if they're handled differently. But I expect it's going to take a while. If the Dome was any example, I mean, that thing took 2-3 years to get done.
And also, again, from a funding standpoint, I want to remind everybody, hotel motel tax, which has funded a lot of the renovations we've seen in that McKithen Sports Complex, that money now is being divvied out a little bit more. The city gets much more of a bigger portion. There's not as much money available now to be able to put into the Dome and the arena, to be able to expand those buildings, modernize those buildings. So a lot of that money is going to have to come from the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, and I should say, I think the lease with the Smoothie King Center is a couple of years away from its expiration. So, you've got a couple of years, but they would obviously like to get something done. They don't want to go up against the end of that. They would lose a lot of leverage that way. So I think everybody's kind of aligned to try to get something done the next year or so. Yeah,
and of course some of that money from the hotel motel tax goes to the city for infrastructure. How does that play with, again, when you're building, again, infrastructure on that particular site? Can some of that money be used there as well? It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But great insight for us. Again, you've been involved in this since day one, and we appreciate you, again, giving us that information. Now we'll talk about some optimism going into next season for the New Orleans Saints. As, again, this time last year, Saints are 5-12. It looks like, again, that they are on a downward spiral. All of a sudden, again, they get a young quarterback that comes in the last 9 games. He goes 5-4. The competition's not that great, but the city of New Orleans almost turns like it's been a complete 180 in terms of how the fan base feels about the team, and also probably, again, how the front office and the team feels about what's going on with the franchise.
Yeah, look, a quarterback kind of washes away everything. I mean, it's the great elixir, and Tyler Shuck, there's a lot of criticism. There was, a little bit of a gamble, I think, taking him. The Saints were really high on him in the draft, and it's paying off for them making that second-round pick, using it on him. There was not a consensus on Tyler Shuck. There were some people in the building that were happy with Spencer Rattler, wanted to build around him. So the fact that they used that pick, I think, it said a lot about Kellen Moore. I think it said a lot about their scouting department, which has come under siege to some degree from fans. And now that they've got their starting quarterback and their left tackle from one draft, I mean, those are arguably two of the 5 most important positions in the game. Man, it makes everything else so much easier to rebuild around. I think Tyler Shuck's even exceeded their expectations. They were high on him, but I think he played even better than they thought. And you can just feel the weight and the relief from the organization. You mentioned optimism. There's no question. Teammates, support staff, coaches, they all believe in this young guy, and he's embracing the role of the franchise quarterback. And it's changed everything on Airline Drive.
Well, this time last year, a lot of folks were thinking about giving up their season tickets. Again, I know they were going deep into their pool trying to sell these tickets. I don't think that's an issue now. I think people are back. All the Saints fans need is a little bit of hope, and they're going to come back to the fold. One of the reasons why we've seen this team maybe take the next step, baby steps, but take the next step, is the drafts over the last 2 years. All the draft choices have made the team the last two seasons. Again, and of course, Mickey Loomis brings in Ziegler and of course Mueller. Now it's Dimitroff and Mueller. How much of an impact do you think those guys have had on the draft process with Ireland and also Mickey as a triumphant working on the draft?
I would look. Randy Mueller's background is scouting.
Right.
He's an excellent personnel guy. I'm sure he's had input. I mean, this is still a Jeff Ireland operation. I mean, he's the guy. Dimitroff has no say.
Right.
I mean, he's basically a consultant helping them with roster management, some analytics. That's his background. He's not involved in personnel, as far as I know, in any way. So this is mainly Jeff Ireland just hitting. And look, I would argue he may have been hitting for a while. There's been a lot of players that have left this building, including Zach Bond, who they drafted. That's now an all-pro linebacker. That was not a miss by Jeff Ireland. That was a miss by the coaching staff that didn't develop him and find a spot for him. There's a lot of guys like that. I mentioned the other day, I mean, Sheldon Rankins is still making plays and starting for a playoff team. That was a very good draft pick. So I think the strength of the Saints front office has been Jeff Ireland and their scouting department. I know they've had some misses, but everyone misses, Derek. You just go down every team in the league. It's a inexact science, and I think the Saints, I did a deep dive on the draft last year. I don't know if anybody read it because I haven't heard anybody talk about it, but I broke down their entire tenure under Jeff Ireland, and the Saints were about the second highest strike rate in the entire league behind the Chiefs during that period. So relatively speaking, they're good at what they do there.
Well, people remember the Davenports and the Turners, the high draft picks that they didn't make it. The question marks about guys like Cesar Ruiz and Penning, and we could go right down the line, especially the big men that haven't made it. With that said, Saints have the 8th overall pick in this draft. What direction do you think they go?
Well, I'm on record, man. I think they need to go for Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. I think they need a explosive playmaker. I think Alvin Kamara is best served right now as a backup player. And that's no knock on Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's reached the point in his career where that naturally happens. 2017 draft, he's the last player from that draft still playing, So I think at this stage, he's probably best served to be a complementary player. This offense needs playmakers.
Agreed.
It needs explosiveness. They were forcing a rookie quarterback to move 10 and 12 play drives up and down the field and execute. That's very difficult to do. He did an incredible job of that. Kellen Moore did an incredible job of kind of moving this offense in bites and small bites. They need someone that can take it to the house. Love is an explosive playmaker. He's the best playmaker, explosive playmaker in this draft, regardless of position. And that's what they need. So in my opinion, that's who you go get. You don't worry about the conventional wisdom of a running back. You take what's best for your team, and I think there's a huge need for that. They've finished near the bottom of the league in rushing the last 5 years.
Yes.
They need someone that can take a 5-yard gain and make it a 50-yard gain.
Let's talk about retention of players, and of course the big ones right now, again, what's going to happen with Jordan, Davis, Hill, and Kamara. What do you think about those players coming back?
I'll be surprised if they're not all offered a chance to come back. This is how this operation works. I mean, the front office has always been very loyal. Those are 4 team captains, very popular players with the fan base. And they also produced, for the most part, this past year, especially Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis. You could argue they were the 2 most consistently productive players on defense. They played at a very high level. It's just going to be what number do the Saints value? How do they value those 2 players? And does that align with what those 2 guys feel like they're valued at?
Right.
To me, it always comes down. Mickey Loomis always has a number in mind, and he very rarely moves off of it. Now, I know he respects and respects those 2 players, what they've done for the organization. So he may treat them a little differently than other people in the past, but we've seen it before where players have walked.
It's in the Saints' best interest to try to bring those guys back if they can. $47 million in dead money that they'd have to eat with, again, still fooling with the car contract that they're having to get through as well. So I would hope that, again, that they would be able to work out a deal there. The other one is Alontae Taylor. What do you think is going to happen there? He's a guy that will probably be in demand. It's almost like the C.J. Gardner-Johnson thing all over again. This is a guy that plays the interior cornerback position. He's the nickel guy. He's the star guy in Staley's defense and an important part of the defense. But at the same time, what type of money he's going to get? I looked it up online. If he was franchised, it'd be like $20 million. So what do you think happens there?
Well, I think they're going to make him an offer. It's just a matter of, again, does that align with what the market rate is going to be for him? Alontae Taylor, I know, is highly valued by Brandon Staley. Plays, you mentioned the star position. That's a critical position in that defense. He's a very versatile player. I think he's kind of one of these players that inside NFL circles, he's valued more maybe than even the fans value him. I would say, he's a guy they would like to have back, but there's going to be a certain number that they, feel like is warranted for him. But they've already, I think, started talking to him and his camp. It's just a matter of where's the bank going to be at on him. He's a guy though that I feel like he kind of reminds me of a little better version of Paulson Adebo. He's not quite there. I mean, he makes a lot of plays, but leaves a lot of plays on the field. There's a lot of big plays that he's had a chance to make, but he's a tremendous athlete. And as opposed to, say, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he's a guy that's really liked in the locker room and isn't going to be a problem, whereas C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on his 5th team, I think, in 4 years.
Right. Free agency comes before the draft. There's a need, again, an upgrade in the interior of that offensive line. Do they go there or in free agency and then maybe again in the draft? How do you think they're going to play this free agency? $28 million over the cap now. They're going to get under the cap with no problem. Your thoughts?
Well, what they normally do is they identify where the holes are in the roster. You mentioned the interior line. Mickey Loomis even came out and said they need to get better there. So I think that's definitely going to be an area they address in free agency. What they like to do is identify as many of those holes as they can and fill them in free agency. That way in the draft, they can just take the best player on the board. That's how they've always operated. So I definitely think they will be in the guard market in free agency. I think it'll be one of their top priorities. I think they'd like to add, a little more athletic, maybe speedy edge rusher if they can find one. I think maybe a younger run stuffer inside to replace Devon Godshaw. I don't know if they'll bring him back or not. He played okay this year, but I think they'd like to get someone in there that's younger, maybe cheaper. And so there's some other needs they have. They probably need another tight end. I don't know if Foster Moreau will be back. That's a guy that I think could be expendable for them. They need, like I said, they need playmakers at every skill position. Tight end, receiver, running back.
Agreed.
So I think, they'll probably address those in free agency. That way in the draft, they can just stack their board and take who comes to them.
And final questions for you, and it's about the coaching staff. Number one, your critique Moore his first year. And again, with all the openings we're seeing in the NFL right now, is Staley safe to be the defensive coordinator for the Saints next year?
You mean this coming next year? Yeah. I don't think he's in the coaching carousel this year. I think he'll be the defensive coordinator. If he stacks another year like he had this year, he will definitely be back in the market, I think, next year. I don't know what they're going to do with the staff. The coaches have been off since the end of the season. I think they come back Tuesday. So I wouldn't expect them to make any changes until they get everybody back in the offices. I'm sure Kellen Moore and the front office have probably had meetings about the staff, doing their postseason autopsy, what changes they want to make if they do want to make changes. And then look, Kellen Moore, I think you have to say is encouraging. I was doubting at mid-season
Me too.
if he was the right guy. He was struggling to find his way as a play caller. I think they still have some issues with slow starts. I mean, it was kind of historically bad with their slow starts. I think his game management still needs a lot of work. But this is a young head coach with a lot of, I think, reasons to be encouraged. The two biggest feathers in his cap were the quarterback, who they hit on. That was a big Kellen Moore. He was a guy in his court. And then the other thing was he brought in Brandon Staley. I think the question you have is, can he keep doing things? Can he address the shortcomings he has, and can he continue to improve? I mean, Mike McDaniel is a good example. He was the flavor of the month in the NFL a few years ago. With him and Tua were going to lead the charge. He was up for the MVP, and now he's out of a job. I mean, things happen. The league will evolve. They will study the Saints and what they did this offseason. It's going to be harder going forward than it was in that first year.
Agree. Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Times-Picayune, NOLA.com, and also contributor to Fox 8 Sports is our guest. I'm Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. You'll hear from our underwriters. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Jeff Duncan is our guest. Jeff, let's start with the LSU Tigers. Lane Kiffin is the portal king. I think we were doubting that a little bit over the last few weeks. Right. But this past week, with again the portal closing on Friday, it has been fast and furious. Your thoughts on what he has done so far, especially the quarterbacks over the last week?
Yeah, no, I think that's been the biggest reason to be excited if you're an LSU fan. They had to address that position, and they addressed it in a big way. I mean, it was really kind of amazing he was able to address the depth there. I mean, once he got Sam Levitt, I thought that would be it.
Me too.
This is the way the quarterbacks work.
Right.
So it's really impressive. I think LSU's obviously committed a lot of resources. That's why he came to LSU, because he knew they would commit resources, and this is a new era of football. The transfer portal's kind of replaced National Signing Day is what everybody gets excited about, and that's how he built that program at Ole Miss. He obviously has a very keen eye for talent, what works in his system, what he's looking for and identifying. They brought in a lot of receivers. So, look, I think the days of this offense being stagnant are going to be over pretty quickly. We've seen that he can rebuild an offense in one off season. So it's going to be exciting to see the depth chart in the spring and when everything comes out, how all these guys stack up. But this is why they brought in Lane Kiffin. I mean, they wanted to re-energize this program. There's no doubt right now LSU fans are very excited. I caution everyone. I mean, you can have a big portal signing, right, and it can not pan out, but he's shown he can do it. So I think you have to have confidence in him.
Well, I would say this again: 27 players leave. He's at 26 and counting now. The only thing, again, you would like to use the portal to kind of augment your roster because of the coaching change. Again, a lot of players have bolted. I think that next year you'll probably have a little bit more continuity, and you'll just be maybe piecemealing that in terms of bringing players in. This will be a situation where guys are trying to, continuity is going to be an issue, trying to get all these guys on the same page. I am interested about this quarterback situation. They bring in Sam Levitt, who's the #1 quarterback in the portal. They bring in a guy called Landon Clark from Elton, who was, again, on the FCS, a pretty darn good quarterback. But the interesting one is Hussein Longstreet, the kid out of USC, the number 6 quarterback in the portal, who has 4 years of eligibility left and looks like a quarterback that really fits Lane Kiffin's system more than maybe any other. You've got a situation with Levitt, who's coming off the Liz Frank injury, probably won't be ready till August. I'll be interested to see what that particular battle looks like, with Longstreet having an opportunity to maybe get a little bit of head start on Levitt.
Yeah, I think that's how he sold it. I think he sold him on that and having a chance to compete. I think all three of those guys are going to get a chance to compete. And look, Levitt's probably the guy they're paying, I'm sure, more than the other two guys. But I think Longstreet looked at this as even if Levitt does start, I'll just, I'll bide my time and come back in a year. No, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how these things play out.
Of course.
In college football, you can never count on stability for the most part.
Right.
But the fact that he was able to sell him on that, to me, was very impressive. He's a California kid. He went to Southern Cal. He's coming all the way across the country to presumably be a backup here. That's a pretty interesting sell job.
Also, again, my concern still is the offensive line. It's been an Achilles heel for this team the last few years. I mean, going back to when Jaden Daniel was masking the deficiency with his ability to be able to run. Again, with the guys they brought in now, hopefully again they will still upgrade that before they get again to the end of the portal, which is Friday. And then remember, teams that are in the national championship or in the playoffs, there's 5 extra days for those guys to jump into the portal as well. So there may be an opportunity to jump to do that going forward. It's going to be an interesting offseason for this team, but also again how quickly they can gel once the season starts.
Yeah, you know what I find fascinating is with everything that's transpired, and this has really been a soap opera between Ole Miss and LSU. These rivals, border rivals. LSU now has become, I saw somebody say this on social media the other day, and I thought it was a pretty accurate description. They've kind of become the Dallas Cowboys of college football. People either going to hate watch them on their games or they're going to be all in like LSU fans are, but they're so compelling right now. They're definitely a lightning rod with Lane Kiffin there, that they've become kind of must-watch theater. I think they're going to get a lot of national TV games because of it. They have become kind of one of the it programs again in college football. They've kind of fallen off under Brian Kelly. They're definitely back in a big way. That's one of the reasons why they went so hard for Lane Kiffin. But it's going to be fascinating to watch. I don't think it's going to be boring in any way. I think it's either going to be spectacularly successful or it could go the south. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be fascinating theater, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it in my time covering LSU. What they did, and Jeff Landry, I thought, said something in he wrote that letter, op-ed piece about trying to fix college football, and I would love to ask him this, and I will when I get with him someday. Is he said we had to do what we did, and I'm wondering if he means getting rid of Scott Woodward to clear the deck, because Woodward was not a big fan of Lane Kiffin. Were they targeting Lane Kiffin so highly that they felt they had to move Scott Woodward out of the way to get Lane Kiffin? Is that what he meant by that?
Yeah.
We did what we had to do. I'd like to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Shift gears to Tulane. Again, much like LSU, the roster turns over, but that's something that Tulane deals with every single year. Talk about Will Hall, his hiring, and how you think he's done so far in the portal. Ranked 70th nationally by, On3, and the second best team in the portal in the American as of today.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is, their competition. They're right at the very top. Look, I'm a big Will Hall fan. I think I'm impressed with him. I think he knows he's got a big challenge on his hand replacing John Sumrall, who's one of the best coaches Tulane's ever had. But he's retained a lot of key players. That was big for them. They're always going to be poached. There's no doubt about it. Losing the punter and the kicker to Sumrall.
But you knew that was happening.
Yeah, I know. And those two guys are really good. They have a great kicking game.
They're SEC caliber too.
Yeah, they're big-time players. But I think he's done a good job. I like the way he's building his staff. I'm really interested to see how they do under Will Hall. I think he's really motivated after things did not work out at Southern Miss, and I think we're going to see him at a different level with Tulane. Tulane's whole university is behind this. Right. I know that they were, obviously he was their second choice behind Blake Baker. Sometimes that works out. You know, we all seen that happen before. I'm not willing to write him off at all. I think he's motivated to make amends for what happened at Southern Miss. And he's got better resources, better infrastructure around him at Tulane to be successful. But that conference is difficult. Now, the whole conference all the coaching staffs went to the went to the SEC. So he's kind of getting in at a good time because there's a lot of other programs going through the same thing they're going through.
Jeff, again, you've been here long enough. Again, talk a little bit about, again, the change we've seen at Tulane from, again, what was just, again, a decade or so ago, the thoughts of de-emphasizing athletics to what we're seeing now with, again, the building of the practice facility, understanding, again, to be able to make it now in college athletics, you've got to have a collective. You've got to be able to have, a fan base that's willing to, or alumni that's willing to be able to finance their sports programs. And there's a renewed emphasis on that at Tulane now.
Yeah, and look, I think we have to credit Willie Fritz, obviously, for that hire. Troy Dannon made that hire. It was at the time, I don't think a lot of people knew about Willie Fritz, and I think Troy and Willie changed everything on Willow Street. I think they were able to let the university see that having a really strong athletic program, especially a football program, at a school and with such an academic standard and reputation as Tulane, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think for a long time, people on the academic side of Tulane felt like they couldn't lower their standards and have a good football or athletic program. I think now people are seeing that these things can work together. With the other thing I think that's clearly done, the construction of Ullman Stadium on campus has really changed the campus life. I think it's energized the student body around the football program. Students aren't going to go down to the Superdome from campus. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. That is another, I think, huge catalyst for what we're seeing. And I think Mike Fitz, the president there, now understands that this thing can work together. Look, they're never going to be LSU. They're not in that arena. It's a totally different kind of mission that they have there. But I think that they can continue to compete at the highest level of the group of five. That's probably where they're going to, have success.
Well, again, we saw it at Alabama. We've seen it in other schools. When you have success in athletics, especially football, your enrollment goes up, your endowment goes up. So this stuff goes hand in hand as well.
Yeah, and the other thing that John Sumrall talked about that I didn't think about before, but he says lots of times people say, well, it's harder for us here to get certain kinds of athletes here because of our high standards, and he's right about that. But he said the other flip side of that is we also get a lot of guys because we have these high academic standards. A lot of guys realize I'm not going to be probably an NFL player, but I want to get that Tulane degree. And he goes, so we end up getting a lot of really high level athletes in here that just want to be a part of Tulane University, and they're recognizing that, using that to their advantage over, say, some of their competitors in the American that don't have the same academic reputation as Tulane. Something that I've heard the coach at Vanderbilt mentioned is something that they can use to their advantage, and we're seeing it pay off for Vanderbilt.
It's a sales pitch. You hear it all the time. Again, that Tulane degree, what it's going to help you now for the next 40 years, as opposed to worrying about what's going to happen again within the next 5, if you get a chance to go to the NFL.
Yeah, because not everybody's going to the NFL.
No,
very few are.
Right, exactly. So again, we've seen a change now at Tulane. The hope is that Will Hall can continue this. Again, what we've seen on the football side in terms of the success they've had, because again, look, for a long time, people just didn't care about Tulane. There's a true care in this city now about Tulane athletics, especially football.
Yeah, and look, I keep going back to the Ullman Stadium. I think that was a big key because I have a lot of friends. I live uptown. I have a lot of friends, people in the neighborhood that go to Tulane games that never went to Tulane, never went to games when they were at the Dome. But they enjoy that environment of a college football Saturday atmosphere. They can walk through Audubon Park or that neighborhood over in the River Bend, go to games. That's something that people used to do for Saints games. There. Now they do it for Tulane games. I think it's changed everything.
Well, from the positive to the negative, the Pelicans are 10-33. They did win last night, 116-113 over the Nets. They're 2-8 over their last 10, 1-3 over their last 4, and they are struggling with the trading deadline on February the 5th. What do you think happens before then? Anything at all with this team?
I'll be surprised if they don't make a move. I'll be very surprised. I just can't believe they're going to do status quo, clearly seeing that this is not working right now. I think everybody on Airline Drive is disappointed with how things have played out. The roster construction feels off to me.
Yes.
I'm not sure how Jordan Poole even fits into this thing. There's a lot of hope for him when he came in. He's not really found his footing there. It just feels like a bunch of kind of mismatched parts there. I think they need more shooting. That's something that they're, beyond Trey Murphy, they really don't have any consistent outside shooting, so people know how to defend them. And they don't really have much of an identity. Joe Dumars talked at length at his introductory press conference about how they were going to have this gritty team that reflected the resiliency of the people in New Orleans. I haven't seen any of that. I mean, they compete hard. I think the young guys, there's reason to be encouraged about Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. I think both of them have been thrust into roles that they probably weren't expecting, playing way more minutes, developing at a much quicker accelerated rate. But when you're playing two rookies like that and leaning on them so heavily, we can see the up and down nature of their performances. It just feels like a mess to me, and I don't really have a lot of reasons to be optimistic that it's going to get any better.
Yeah, well, again, 2 points. First of all, your point about the lack of shooting in an NBA now where, again, you have to have three-point shooters. You have one. You have Trey Murphy. He's the only one that's been consistent. That has to be something, and that is a real void on this team. Again, and you can see it. You cannot match teams 2 for 3 in the NBA. It just doesn't work. The other part of this is, they're a horrible the defensive team, just a horrible defensive team, and a lot of that is a byproduct of playing so many rookies. Again, those guys are not ready for the NBA, not ready for the NBA to play defense on the NBA level. The question is, what do they do? There have been reports out there the Pelicans will stand pat at the trading deadline. They do not have a pick in this draft, which looks like it's going to be the best draft since 2003. They've given up two first-round picks to the Hawks last year in the Dyson Daniel deal, and of course, we all know the situation now with, again, giving up having that Indiana pick, grabbing that Indiana pick, which again could have been a lottery pick, even though it was protected 1 through 4 this year, and then ultimately again moving up, trading their pick, the Atlanta pick, the Indiana pick, and also again that pick swap to Atlanta for the rights to Derek Queen at 13, and now you're stuck with not having a pick, and again with the worst record in the NBA.
Yeah, and to your point about being a bad defensive team, as well regarded as Fears and Queen were as prospects coming out in last year's draft, neither one of them was considered a good defensive player.
Right.
So when you're adding that, right away, the Pelicans weren't exactly a great defensive team before that.
Right.
So you could see that this was not going to be a good defensive team, which shocked me when Joe Dumars was the architect of this, and Joe Dumars was a great defensive player.
Yes.
Built his reputation in the league on defense. Instead, we're seeing that, obviously they had to make a move on Willie Green. James Borrego, I think, has done an admirable job of trying to improve things there, but his background and reputation is all offense. So I think they leaned into, we're going to play at a higher pace, just try and outscore teams, but it's just not working out. None of this plan, in my opinion, is working out, and I don't know what the long-term vision is. If they're not going to clean house on a roster that clearly needs help, are they going to try and add to it? Is that they think adding components? I just don't see what's going on in here. I have very little faith in what they're doing there.
Right, and then the cap. I mean, you had $40 million of expiring contract with C.J. McCollum, Olynyk, et cetera. You trade that, again, to Washington for Poole and Bey. Bey has been incredible, but he's making $6 million a year, whereas, again, Poole's in the $30 million range over the next 3 years. He's got like $70 million on the books, and how do you move off of that?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Where's the plan? What was the plan there?
Right.
A lot of question marks. And look, I like Derek Queen as much as anybody else. I think he's a fascinating player to watch. I mean, how he gets done, what he gets done without that great athleticism is kind of fascinating to watch. But having said that, you traded away a top 5 draft pick in a draft that everyone is saying is going to be a historic draft. So he's going to have to be even better than what people are saying. To me, that's looking like it's going to haunt the franchise.
And it's frustrating because, again, if you really loved Queen, pick him at 7. Pick him if you really think he's going to be the player he's going to be. And look, he's got a great skill set. Pick him at 7, and again, you can always get a guard. You pick him at 7, and of course that didn't happen. And then there's the other part of this, Jeff. Dumars and Weaver in the witness protection program. Nobody's heard from those guys since again, Willie Green was dismissed. And really, that's another part of this. You dismissed Willie Green last year at the end of the season. You don't go into the season holding on to a coach that clearly did not have the attention of the team. And now you're in a situation where you're really trying to work this thing out with Borrego, who also has the interim term on his plate as well.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of what happened with David Griffin when he came in,
Yes.
and he kept Alvin Gentry for
Right.
a year. And I remember having conversations with Griff about it, saying, well, if you're going to make the move on Alvin Gentry, just go ahead and do it now. Pull the Band-Aid off now, because you're just delaying progress by a year. And that's what it felt like with Willie Green. But I think the way this organization works, we've talked about it a million times, they're very loyal. They move at their own pace.
Right.
I think they wanted to give Willie Green every chance to prove that he could do this job to the new administration, to Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver, and it just didn't work out. So now you're looking at another coaching change, and again, we're just kind of spinning our wheels here on the treadmill.
And looks another component of this is, as we spoke about as we opened the show today, the renovation of the Smoothie King Center, the reimagining of that area around that works a little bit better when North Louisiana's seeing a team that's winning, okay, and they're tuning in. They have the diehard Pelican fans that are still engaged. Even the casual NBA fan is no longer engaged in this team anymore.
No, and I've never seen the apathy toward the team worse than it is right now. I mean, if I go out and they have a home game or even a road game, it's hard to get people interested in watching a Pelicans game right now. And I understand it, because the organization hasn't done anything to engender much enthusiasm from the casual fan. You mentioned, I mean, they have a very loyal, hardcore fan base.
No doubt.
But expanding it to get that casual fan, the fan that's on the fence, hey, should we go down to the game tonight? They've lost that fan, and rightfully so, because they haven't responded and put a successful product on the court. And it's been a long time. I always say part of the problem on Airline Drive with the Saints and the Pelicans has been the messaging coming out of the building. I mean, they keep offering hope and a brighter tomorrow. They keep selling this, this promising future. And after a while, when fans don't see it, come materializing, you see what happens. They get frustrated.
Another component to this as well. Again, look, after Katrina, we changed as a city. People moved to the North Shore. People go to the North Shore now. They don't come back to the city. So you got to be able to, again, give them a reason to come back. And again, for 41 dates at home, you got to have a winning team for this to happen. I think New Orleans can be a basketball city, but we all know you got to have a winning team to get it done. We're no longer a college basketball city anymore, unfortunately. But again, I think we can still be an NBA city, but you've got to be able to win to have that happen. Last question for you. Natty, this on Monday, Indiana versus Miami. Who do you like and why?
Wow, that's going to be a tough game. It's hard for me to go against Indiana the way they've been playing. I think clearly Miami has the talent to beat them, but this Indiana team, they're just unbelievable. I mean, they're destroying good teams.
Yes.
I mean, they're rivaling right now. I know this is blasphemous in our market, but that 2019 LSU team, I'm not sure how much they've got on this Indiana team, and they built it through, the transfer portal, not a bunch of 2 and 3 stars. One of the great coaching jobs in my lifetime.
Yes.
Kurt Signetti. So I'm going to stick with the Hoosiers.
Come on, I mean, Indiana's a basketball school.
I know.
Our whole life. Come on.
It blows my mind what they're able to do.
I think was it 67 was the last time they were even relevant, like in football?
It's not fluky. I mean, by now, everyone should be a believer.
Yeah, no doubt. Glenn, as always, I really appreciate you, Jeff, coming down and joining us on the program. A lot of great information tonight on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for
so
having
much,
me.
as always. Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Times Picayune, also, again, contributed to Fox 8 Sports. All right, folks. Man, so many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to my website, ericasher.com, also the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, and Pelican Sports Television, our YouTube channel. So many ways to catch the program. Set your DVR. You'll never miss the program. All right, you catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.7 The Ticket. We have an app, 106.7 The Ticket app. You can get that at your app store. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, other digital platforms to catch the show. Also at ericasher.com, you can listen live. And also 106.7 The Ticket on our website. There's a live play space where you can listen to the show there as well. Want to thank the underwriters who make our show possible. We appreciate each and every one of those underwriters. Please support our underwriters. And of course, we thank the folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dodson, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Jeff Duncan, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
My guest this week on Let's Talk is recently retired Times-Picayune editorial cartoonist Walt Handelsman. You won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. Which one was more satisfying?
The first one being with Picayune was awesome, and my parents were alive, and it was a great experience to tell them. And the second one being at Newsday involving my animations, which took so much time. It was a great honor, really.
Tune in this week for more from Walt Handelsman.
We're local and enlightening. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.